Your branding is the first thing people see when they come to your website or social media. So how do you level up so you can attract your dream clients? Our next guest can help. It is Kim Russo from On Brand Designs.
This is Charleston Women Podcast, where you can meet like-minded, strong, independent, professional, and inspiring local women. This is Charleston Women Podcast.
And now I would like to welcome to the Charleston Women Podcast, Kim Russo. She is owner, CEO, and lead designer of On Brand Designs. Kim, welcome. We are so thrilled to have you today.
Thank you for having me. And I love being part of this community.
Yes. So I think this is such an important topic for anyone, no matter what type of business that you have. And this is branding. So, today we're going to get into your story because you've had rapid success, very recently, which is awesome. So we want all the tips and tricks from that. But I just want to start with branding. Why is it so important for businesses?
Well, branding is it's the first thing you see when you come across a company. So it's really setting the tone for who you are, who you attract, why people are going to choose to work with you. It's your visual storefront. It's your visual story to tell people what it is that you offer.
Right. And when we say that, are we talking about the image, like the professional headshots that you have out, your color palette, your font, like all of that plays into it, correct?
It's all of it. So my favorite thing to say is your brand is not a logo. Right. One of the things, because your brand is your whole image. So it is the font you choose. It's the color you choose. It's how you show up and present yourself, especially if you are the person behind your brand and it's a personal brand, but it's being consistent. So my name for my business is called On Brand Designs because I like to keep everything on brand.
Right.
So having a cohesive look across all of your branding materials and again, like how you show up is going to help with that consistency of really setting you apart and making you a brand and not just a font or a logo or color.
Right. So let's get into mistakes. What would you say are some of the top mistakes that businesses make, solo entrepreneurs, whomever, when they're working on their branding?
So my first thing, it's more of a pet peeve than a mistake, but when you do try to DIY, which there's nothing wrong with that. There's some people that start at budgets where they need to, but going to a place like Canva or like a 99 Designs or even AI at this point too, because it's not original. And so being original is the biggest thing that sets you apart in branding. So that's definitely a no. And then not starting with some strategy. So starting with research is the best place to make sure that you're accomplishing your goal. So when you just go ahead and start and just come up with a graphic or, something that you like and not actually doing the research behind it, it's going to be less impactful.
Right. So when you say research, what are questions that we should be asking or looking up when we're looking at, either rebranding or starting from scratch, creating a brand?
So there's a whole strategy process, but you want to start with, you do want it to be you. So you want to kind of collect all the things that you like and are attracted to, because the first thing that I think is important is that you love your brand, because you're going to be able to sell your brand more if you love it. But then you also want to do competitive research and see what other people are using as far as graphics, messaging, colors. You want to make sure that you're standing out within the crowd, but also not being too far away that there's a disconnect.
Okay. Kim, how did you get into all this? What is your story that you became this brand expert?
So I started out being creative my whole life. I was the girl always coloring, painting, doing crafts. I think by my senior year, I only took art classes in high school.
Pretty impressive.
So I just loved being creative and went to art school in New York City.
Okay.
Kind of went away from the drawing, painting side of being an artist and went into the digital world, because that was back in 2001 when computers were starting to be popular.
Right.
And I thought I'd make, lots of money as a digital artist rather than a starving artist on the streets painting in the Seine, which is what I wanted to do. And so from there, I fell in love with packaging. I went to FIT in New York City,
Oh, wow.
which is Fashion Institute of Technology. and started in communications design. But when I discovered the packaging program, it was a very hard program to get into. They only accepted 20 students, and it was the only bachelor's program, or roughly 20 in the country. And so I have a very competitive side. So I got into it, spent 2 years for my bachelor's there, and worked in New York City for 10 years, a little over, doing packaging design.
Podcasting has exploded in popularity, especially local podcasts. As of 2022, 62% of Americans have listened to a podcast. 38% have listened in the last month. 26% in the last week. The podcasting audience is booming with no signs of slowing down. Call the podcast hotline to be featured on these podcasts or to receive information about podcast marketing. Call 843-530-0403 or visit carolinapodcasts.com.
You're listening to the Charleston Women Podcast.
How do you make that jump from working for, in the big city, right, to coming to Charleston, to starting your own thing? Like, how did that transition happen?
So I kind of decided I didn't want to work in corporate anymore. So it was cool to see brands that I was working on in the grocery stores, but I had done freelance along the way. And when that ended, I worked for a print shop where I did everything. So I got more into branding, print collateral, website, taught myself how to do website design in that process, and just decided it just got to a point where I was over New York. I wanted warm weather. I wanted to be halfway to retirement. So I came to actually visit my parents who had retired from New York to Hilton Head. And so that kind of led me on this path to moving here. So I moved here 4 years ago, not knowing a single soul, moved my business here. It had been started for about a year. And then really just fell into the community here and put myself out there and networking and meeting people.
Do you find yourself, first of all, this is the Charleston Women Podcast. So I'm going to ask, and to me, your brand is like feminine, or I'm attracted to it as a woman. Do you find that your clients are mostly female? Not saying you won't work with men, but do you see is that what you're attracting?
They are. I would say that if, in today's world, if we have to niche down, which is a very popular topic, I'd say female entrepreneurs in the health and wellness.
Okay.
But I do also get men clients.
Listen, we're not turning them away.
So I definitely connect better with women when it's something that I am more familiar with. So if it is fitness, which I'm really into, if it's holistic health, which I'm really into, then I'm able to understand and connect to the clients more. And I end up being friends with a lot of my clients.
That's great. I can see that. So when you're working with someone, I'm sure there's a resistance, or do you have people, first of all, come to you and say, I need to do something. I'd like to change my brand, but then they're resistant to doing so because we've lived with it for so long and they're afraid what the new look might mean, et cetera. First of all, does that happen? And second of all, how do you overcome that?
It definitely does happen. I'm actually working on a project now that and a lot of these times it's people who do DIY it and now they're ready to up level. So they're ready for more, but they are attached to what they've created. And I think the biggest way to get past that is to make them part of the brand. So I like to take my clients' visions and bring it to life. I'm their hands, I'm their creative. So I really like to include them in the whole process. So in that strategy process, we do a lot of work where they're giving me things that they are attracted to. I'm going off of getting to know them. And we have a few calls where we are really diving into what they are as a person and their brand to help them feel more comfortable and making sure that it's what they want before we move on to the next step.
What do they say then afterwards, after you've nudged them in the right direction and, they've done it all? What do they say when they get that new brand look?
Oh, they usually always love it. They appreciate the push. And especially when it comes to web design, when they've done it themselves and they redo it, I usually get back, oh my gosh, now I'm getting the clients I want, or now my business has grown. So
well, that was my next question. Does the branding then translate into dollars? Because that's the whole point, right? To attract better clients, more money. They're seeing that happen.
Absolutely. I've two recently that I just finished. And as soon as it went live, one of them, she's like, I can't keep up with all these appointments. So definitely, that's like the biggest joy. When I hear stuff like that, that's my mission. That's my goal.
Yeah.
So.
I mean, you're changing people's lives, truly, right? By generating more business, increasing their revenue. You do have something here. It's a profitable brand designer. I want to know more about this and what people can expect from this. Is this an online course?
Yes, this is it's a course that I created for creatives. Okay. So in my process, I'm going on my 5th year of business now. I started my business more in that freelancer mindset where I was used to working for somebody else and doing this side hustle. And so even though I started a legit business, I still had this kind of take whatever comes in, no real structure, no real systems. Even though I still work a lot, there was no time off before, there was no breaks. And so I invested in myself and my business to learn the tools, hire help, learn the right systems for me as a designer, and how to up-level my packages, how to go through that strategy process in a more impactful way that is going to see results. So all of that work that I did over a couple of years, I took and condensed it into this course because I did invest a lot. And it was because I had to take a little bit from here and a little bit from this person. So what I'm doing is what I figured out worked for me as a creator. And so I created this process where it takes you through how to up-level your own brand so that you are, we sell what we do. So if my brand doesn't look good, why would you trust me to design your stuff? So,
so what I hear you saying, you've paid for the mentorship, you've paid for the coaching, you've invested a lot of time and money into all this, and you figured out what works for you, a system of scalability. So in your online course, you're going to save people a lot of time and a lot of money because you're going to say like, this is how I did it. And they can replicate that process, right?
Yeah. All the systems and tools, and it goes everywhere up to like how I network and go on podcasts.
We're happy to have you. What would you say if you had to boil it down to one piece of advice? Because we have a lot of established women listening to this podcast. We also have a lot of newbies. Everyone now kind of wants a side hustle, right? We have to. With inflation and the economy, everyone's trying to get additional revenue streams. So if someone's trying something new and trying to generate revenue, when you look back on your path to success, like what is one piece of advice you would give? Hard question. I'm sure there's a lot.
Yeah. I think the biggest part that's also switched for me too is mindsets, which is a little bit of what I teach, because you have to understand your goals and what you want. Because if you don't have a map of where you want to be, and that structure, you're never going to get there because you don't know what to be. So I think really like figuring out what you want your business to look like and then work backwards.
Right. I love that. I have another weird question that I ask people sometimes, but when I meet busy, successful women, I'm always curious as to how they start their day. Because I think it's fascinating. Some of us wake up really early and work out. Some of us sleep in, whatever. Do you have any morning routines that you're willing to share?
That's exactly what I do. So I actually have, in part of my mindset section of my course is my morning routine.
See?
So I have to get up and go to the gym right away. If I don't, it's on my mind all day. I feel guilty and I won't get to do it because my evenings are either going out and networking, catching up on work, or I'm just drained.
Okay. So you work out right up front.
So I work out and then I come back and I have a team meeting every morning right after the gym to get me.
Do you shower before that team meeting?
Nope.
The beauty of working from home, isn't it?
I show up with my workout sports bra and sweat, and when I don't go, they're like, "What's wrong?
What happened?" The beauty of running your own business and being able to do that. Kim, for someone listening, or if they're watching this, 2 questions as far as like how they can work with you. How can they work with you and your team one-on-one to do, a brand overhaul? Or if a creative is listening and wants to possibly take your course to learn your systems and replicate what you've done.
Yeah, absolutely. So onbranddesigns.com is my website, and socials is onbranddesigns. And that's really how I can help up level your brand with creatives. So we start with your brand and your logo, or if you already have it, we'll create systems and things to keep you on brand. And then the Profitable Brand Designer is a 7-module course. I also have group coaching once a month to kind of help with any Q&A, and then also upgrading to one-on-one coaching. If you just need help with design tips or how to use a program and you're really just starting out and you need that extra bit of help, that is something that I am offering as well.
That's great, Kim. It has been an absolute pleasure talking to you. It's onbranddesigns.com, right? Where they can find you online, all the social media channels. Is there anything else you'd like to add before we go?
I think that's it, but you can check me out in the magazine too as well. I love being part of the Charleston Women's.
Yes, it is like a community, right? It's like a special little club.
It
to be
is.
featured in Charleston Women.
I've met so many women just through connecting through photo shoots and the happy hours. So
happy hours are key. And you did say, I mean, I know you network a lot of different places, but it's the networking that has helped you said double your business, right?
Absolutely.
Just by those face-to-face interactions, which I think sometimes we forget, right? We're on social media too much. We forget that. Kim, such a pleasure. onbranddesigns.com. This has been the Charleston Women Podcast. Make sure you subscribe to see more amazing women in Charleston and across the Lowcountry.
Thanks for spending time with Charleston Women Podcast. Please like us and follow us on whatever platform you're using to access Charleston Women Podcast.